Yo, too, what's good, what's happening, what's poppin'? Y'all ever heard of a case so gruesome the police needed therapy? But shit, this the video right here. Yeah. Crazy title.
This case takes place in the USA and spans over a number of years.
Yo, who's this big brolic ass nigga?
Troy Travis. Murray was born on the 25th of October 1965 in the city of St. Louis, Missouri, one of the major cities along the Mississippi River. He was raised in a
Hold on, cuz. Bro, you know how much crazy shit the police see throughout they policing career, bro? Like dead bodies, murder victims, from gunshot wounds to stabbings to overdoses, domestic violence cases, high-speed chases. Like, it's crazy the shit that they done seen in their lifetime, and I'm sure it's a gang of police officers who won't ever talk about the shit that they seen.
About his formative years, although his former teacher remembered him only because of how unusual he was. After graduating in 1985, he spent 2 years in the Army Reserve working as a medical and dental assistant. He later held various jobs, including working for trucking companies and volunteering at a nursing home. On the surface, nothing was alarming about his life, which is bizarre when we consider the deplorable and diabolical acts he later committed. It was in 1987 where his life began to unravel. He became addicted to crack cocaine, which was a habit that quickly spiraled out of control. By 1988,
hey, this nigga kind of got like a little lazy eye a little bit, don't y'all see this? Y'all seen in the other picture? I'm gonna go back real quick. Y'all got a little lazy guy, don't it? That motherfucker all drifting off to the side and shit. That bitch looking over here.
Revel. He became addicted to crack in 1988 at the age of 23. His addiction had totally consumed him. He was spending as much as $300 a day on drugs, which led him to commit a series of robberies to
I was about to say, where he getting all this bread from?
In the span of 8
$300 a day? How much is $300 a day? $1,400 a week?
Stores across the county.
Shit. Nah, it's more than $1,400 a week.
He was neither aggressive nor hostile. Officers later described him as
300 times 7.
When he
$2,100 a week.
That his drug use had clouded his
$2,100 for 4 weeks. $8,400. Oh my god!
Telling the judge that he had completed rehabilitation and was no longer using drugs after spending some time in jail before the trial.
That nigga lying.
Just months before his 24th birthday, a judge sentenced him to 15 years in prison.
Yeah, we need more than that.
Months into the sentence, Maury sent a handwritten letter to the judge pleading for reconsideration. He described prison as unbearable, saying that he cried himself to sleep most nights and his mental health was deteriorating. Suffice to say,
they were prison for. They were supposed to do.
After serving just over 5 years, Maury was released on parole. He was 29 years old, and the year was 1994.
This one a little different. This ain't the regular
Airhead Extreme. Afterwards described him
as
polite
Hoppin' Berry
and an unassuming man. A neighbor recalled how he would hum and sing when entering the shared basement of their building, making sure she knew he was there so he wouldn't startle her. Another neighbor, who often drank beer with him, said he never noticed anything strange about him, which is rather strange, as he would soon become known as the...
Yo, what's this nigga name again? Okay, he looked like a Jerry. He looked like a name that got 2 R's in it. Like Jerry, Larry, Wary, Frary, Dairy. You know what I'm saying? Names like that.
During the summers of 2000 and 2001, he was working as a waiter at a hotel restaurant. One day, a co-worker named Dave mentioned that a friend's stolen car had been found burned in East St. Louis. Maury didn't seem surprised.
This nigga look like he got a hard ass head.
That East St. Louis
like harder than the usual person.
Because the police.
Y'all see that noggin? Look at that noggin. God! Look at this noggin! Y'all know this nigga got hard. Boy, he used to run into people all the time. When he was a kid, he used to play on. You know how you used to play on the playground? He used to run into people sometimes and hit y'all. You know, used to hit each other's heads. I did that so many times. So when that happened to him, shit, they just, boom, it just bounced right off his ass. He probably just kept running. Like it didn't happen.
He thought that this was a strange comment to make. Why would Maury be an expert on knowing where the police didn't patrol? This made the colleague rather suspicious of him. Maury also had a girlfriend, a woman named Julie.
This picture right here make him look dumb as shit.
Julie was working as an intern for KDL News, and she remembers Maury saying something rather disturbing. Maury turned to Julie and asked her if the station had ever done a story on the escorts who were being murdered at the time. From 2000 to 2001, several...
Yo, who's these? Who's these two ladies with these flat ass backs? Look, they just... no ass whatsoever. Ain't got shit. Just flat like an ironing board.
Escorts were found dead, dumped in East St. Louis and other areas. However, this wasn't public knowledge yet. The police had decided to not yet tell the media. Whilst Maury was talking to his girlfriend, he referred to this person as a serial killer. Julie found the information strange but intriguing. It pricked her journalistic senses, and she pitched the idea to her boss at the station. However, the boss had no idea about these murders yet. Less than 3 months later, the police publicly announced that a serial killer had likely been preying on escorts in that area. These were African American women who were addicted to drugs and often living on the streets. In St. Louis, the common area known for its crack houses was called the Stroll. People who hang around the Stroll can be seen walking the streets for days on end. They have matted hair and wear the same clothing for weeks at a time. These women have no permanent or safe residences.
Damn.
They were exposed and at the mercy of their next customers. They worked so they could buy more illegal substances, and Maury Travis knew this area.
Imagine having to fuck for money all the time. Like, not even on no high quality production porn shit. It's different. You on the side of the street, just some random motherfuckers. They can have anything. They can have anything. AIDS, HIV, the motherfucking. They can have anything, bruh. And then they could be wanting to do anything to you, like this nigga wanting to kill you, wanting to rob you, like human traffic you. Like, it's just too much shit. It's just so unsafe. But man, I feel so bad for these ladies, man.
He knew it for the access to drugs and the access to vulnerable victims. The serial killer who had been preying on these women was in fact Maury Travis. Still to this day, there is no timeline of events, but it is suspected that Maury went on a killing spree from the 19th of March 2000 to the day of his arrest 2 years later. What we do know is his clear modus operandi. First, Maury would cruise up the Stroll, eyeing up the local women of the night, most of which were African American.
Well, he said his name Maury, like with 2 R's, like I said earlier. Maury. Is it spelled like Maury or Maury?
As Maury desired. Once he had his mind set on one of the women, he would approach them. He came across nice, polite, and like any other person seeking their services. Only he was not like anyone else. What he intended to do was beyond imaginable. After some small talk during a ride home to his house in Ferguson, he would welcome them into his house. What's strange is that he filmed these interactions. First, he would give them some illegal substances and then sleep with them in his bedroom. Once he had had his fill, he turned to satisfy a more darker need. He now let them engage in ritual-like activities.
Yo, this nigga look like Detective Dokes, bruh. From Dexter, bruh. He look just like this nigga. Bald ass head with just a mustache.
One victim into his living room, made her change into a white dress before placing sunglasses on her face. Still to this day, nobody quite knows why he did these strange things. And then, when the women are least expecting it, he would pull out an extremely powerful taser and shock the victim just below the collarbone, rendering them completely incapacitated. He then grabbed the women by the legs and dragged them through his house into the basement, which was later named his torture chamber. The police recall watching the footage at a later date, hearing the bodies bang along the staircase as he dragged them down into his lair. Maury's demeanor then rapidly changed. He became hostile, combative, and very degrading. There was a single thick wooden column in the center of the torture chamber, which he would use to restrain the women against. He would strip them completely naked and handcuff their hands and feet behind them around the column, leaving them on their knees.
This an actual
Maury
person,
then
bro?
began interrogating them.
Like, is this an actual woman right here that he did this shit to?
Asking them who's looking after their children. He made his point very clear. These women were to him subhuman for putting drugs and their jobs before their children. He even filmed them asking if they wanted to say anything to their children.
Damn.
The women would then endure further humiliation and torture over the course of several days. He would beat them black and blue. He would lacerate the women with kitchen utensils, drawing blood which would spray across the basement, and he cared very little for cleaning up. After killing
Bro,
the
imagine the smell down there, dog. Imagine the smell.
Maury would extract something from them, an item of clothing or a piece of jewelry, anything to keep as a souvenir. Next, he would eject any films he had made in his camcorder and place them in a safe spacing in the cavity of his dungeon wall. He would then discard the bodies in a wide range of locations. A 34-year-old woman by the name of Alyssa Greenwade was one of his victims. She lived on the Stroll and was found dead in Washington Park on the 1st of April 2001, with strangulation marks around her neck. Teresa Wilson, aged 36, was found dead by strangulation in a ditch off Highway 67 on the 15th of May 2001. Betty James, aged 46, was found on the 23rd of May 2001 and was one of the women who starred in Maury's graphic tapes. She was one of the only victims who stated her real name when she was asked on camera. She was also found with tire marks across her legs, indicating
He ran his whole
that
legs
Maury
over?
had run her over at some point. Then, on the 29th of June 2001, only 16 feet from where Teresa was found, was the body of Verona Thompson, who was aged 36. Then, on the 25th of August 2001, a decomposing 50-year-old woman named Yvonne Cruz was found strangled and tortured to death. Then there was 33-year-old Brenda
They
Beasley,
all
who
around the
was also
same age, too. It's a lot of them that's in there, like, 30 to 36 range. Like, most of them is 30 to 36, bruh. With a couple 40s and a 50. Like, bruh. Like, he is targeting a certain demographic, bruh. 30-somethings, early to mid-30s, early 40s, early 50s. He's targeting that demographic of black women that are can I say that on YouTube? That are escorts on YouTube.
so strangled and dumped in some garbage only a few months later. Brenda and Yvonne had DNA inside their private parts from the same male. This was later discovered to be Maury's. The list continued.
I'll
with
beat
a
the shit out
series
this
of discovered
bitch-ass
skeletal
nigga.
remains, which proved little information with regard to the manner of their death. Maury had no regard for his victims. Teresa Wilson was a mother to a daughter called Chastity. She would take her daughter to the spot where she would meet her clientele.
Okay.
They would both sit on a bench next to a payphone. When Teresa had a client, she would leave her daughter on a bench
Okay.
for an hour.
Yeah, Teresa, you tripping. The work you in, don't take your kid around no type of work, that type of work. When you a escort, bro, don't take your kids around that. And especially don't leave them on a park bench after you just got in the car. Like, what? No fucking
So when
way.
Maury drove up to Teresa, he took her mother knowing that he was going to end her life. Chastity sat and waited for her mother for hours, ultimately for her to never return. He saw these women as trash, so much so that he dumped many of his victims in heavily vegetated areas of highways and mostly in East St. Louis. Some of the bodies were found discarded in illegal dumping sites, buried beneath piles of garbage. Over this period, the police were finding bodies nearly every 6 weeks. The police theorized that the killing was at the hands of the same perpetrator, but unfortunately for the longest time, there were no leads. Homicide investigators from Illinois and Missouri police and the FBI joined forces and created a task force. But again, more bodies appeared, having undergone a brutal, degrading murder with the same modus operandi. The task force thought that the murderer was arrogant, as he would sometimes leave the bodies to be easily discovered. At first,
Look at this nigga face, bruh.
The killer would be a white male trucker, as many of the bodies were left along roads just outside the city. But as more and more bodies turned up, they believed it was a man who was familiar with the area. Early into the investigation, Maury Travis was dubbed the Streetwalker Killer. It took several months before the news outlets started reporting.
Why would we be giving these bitches names, man? Why would we giving these hoe ass niggas names? Like, come on, like, why would we gonna need niggas? We gonna need cool ass names like the Zodiac Killer, the Zodiac Killer. Y'all get what I mean? Bayside Butcher, even though that was a fake nigga, Bayside Butcher. Like, these names be cool as hell. And we be giving these motherfuckers names, bro.
These murders. A journalist named Bill Smith wrote a heartfelt
Jeff the Ripper, like, come on, dog.
On the women who had been killed. He saw that these vulnerable women who had been murdered were being forgotten about, as very few people came forward to identify the bodies. He saw it as a complete injustice, and believed that this would empower the killer to continue.
We give them names because we don't know their real name, huh? Okay. That makes sense.
But just 5 days later, Bill received a peculiar letter in his work mailbox. Bill opened the letter and read the first line. It read, "Nice sub-story about Teresa." But then, Bill read on. It said, "Write a good story about Greenwade, and I'll tell you where the other bodies are. To prove I'm real, here's directions to victim number 17. A map was provided with the letter X marking the spot. The letter was handed over to the task force.
Then this nigga intelligent,
Just
bruh.
as it described, Alyssa was found
Serial
at the map.
killers. Why do serial killers always be intelligent, bruh? Like, they always be good looking, decent looking, and then they be intelligent as a motherfucker, and they be charming. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at Ted Bundy. Like, not even on no gay shit. Like, Ted Bundy was a nice looking man, for real. And that's how he got these motherfuckers. Look at Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer, he wasn't no ugly motherfucker, man. He probably had a nice little mouthpiece on him, just like Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy had a nice ass mouthpiece on him. Then he looked good. That's how, you know what I'm saying, bro?
Provided to Bill.
Man, oh man.
However, the police now had a lead. Maury had used an online digital map to send to Bill. A team of expert digital forensic analysts was assembled to track down the online map that Maury had used to direct Bill to Alyssa's body. The police knew there was only a 5-day window between the initial news report and the day that Bill received the letter. Their task was clear. Find the exact map online and determine who had accessed it within that time frame. The map was from Expedia.com, which exclusively used maps from Microsoft. The police reached out to Microsoft for user data, but the company was reluctant to cooperate. But a subpoena was issued, and Microsoft handed over the data. The map in question...
Hey, why Microsoft try to save this nigga? Why Microsoft try to save this nigga, bro?
...covered a small specific section of St. Louis. The police hoped that the number of users who had accessed it during the 5-day window could be minimal. And they were right. Only one computer had downloaded that very section of the map. Tracing the IP address
Get his
led
ass.
to an MSN account.
Get his ass. Get his ass. Get his ass.
Registered under the username Maury Travis. This name brought them to a property where Maury had been living, the house which sat atop his murder dungeon. On the 7th of June 2002, Sergeant Tom Sachs of the St. Louis Police Force headed to Maury's residence in Ferguson in the morning. After banging on the door,
What time in the morning? Cause them bitches be coming at goddamn 3, 4, 5 a.m. They be coming 3, 4, 5 a.m. Fucking break down the door.
It was met by a riled up Maury Travis and his girlfriend. Maury's first words to the police officer was, "It's 7 o'clock in the morning."
Girlfriend. See what I'm saying? It's like these motherfuckers that's sick like him in the head can have a whole family, whole girlfriend, whole wife, and I'll be doing this shit and their wife never knows anything about it. In most cases. Sometimes the wife be on some nut shit and don't tell nobody that it's happening. Even though they know. Or they stay even though they know. But like, motherfuckers that sick in the head like this, you'll never know they is, cause they just like any other regular person, bruh. Just like me. Just like you. It could be anybody in the world, dog. That motherfucker you walked past that you said that you threw your head up to, like, what's up? Could have just killed somebody before he went into that store you were just coming out of. He might have a dead body in the trunk right now, and he going to get some goddamn ingredients to make some rotel. It's crazy, bruh.
Tim Sachs replied and said, "Yeah, you're right, and here's a search warrant." Maury then said, "Why do you need to search my house?" And Tim replied by saying, "You know exactly why we're here." The police believed that they had caught the streetwalker strangler, but what they didn't expect was the sheer volume of evidence waiting for them. The police searched the house and quickly realized that they had uncovered something far worse than they had anticipated. They found the computer they were looking for, but they also found women's wigs, pairs of high heels, jewelry, and a stun gun locked in the desk drawer. They even found a book on how to conduct torture and articles regarding his victims. Within the walls of the torture chamber were a collection of homemade videotapes. One videotape was labelled The Wedding Day. This had several edits and cuts which showed Maury torturing, abusing, and forcing himself upon different women. A moment later, it cut to a part where he is killing Cassandra Walker. You can see how she was chained up to a wooden central pillar in the basement. Her legs and hands are restrained.
As soon as they seen her tied up to that pillar, they looked up from the video and looked at that exact pillar like, oh my God.
And she is pleading with him to let her go. In that moment, he picks up a belt and strangles her to death. Now, what exactly happened on these tapes was so disturbing that each officer that reviewed the tapes was given psychological treatment after. They were described as beyond twisted and horrifically graphic. The basement painted an even darker picture. The police uncovered a makeshift prison cell. Blood covered the walls, ceiling, doors, and the carpet. Even the furniture was stained red. This was the setting for most of these videotapes that he had made. Investigators searching Maury's home found a crude diagram detailing plans for a basement extension. He intended to build 2 prison cells where he would chain up his victims, and the plans were incredibly well thought out.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this nigga intelligent too, bruh. He knew exactly what he wanted, and he knew exactly what he was gonna do to these women before he even did it.
included air vents for the
Motherfucker
basement,
throw it off.
ensuring ventilation. He wanted to make sure it was well concealed, so he drew crawl ports instead of doors. Since there was no bathroom facilities, he made a list of supplies which included adult diapers. It was clear that he was prepared.
He was gonna make these women sit in their own filth. And they was gonna get an infection, and he wasn't gonna give a fuck about it. They probably gonna get an infection, and he probably was still gonna force himself on them. Sick ass nigga, man.
To keep women captive for an extended period of time, inferring he must have gotten bored of his current methods. It turned out that Maury's girlfriend had no idea what was going on in the house she lived in, or what Maury had planned. She swore that
she lived there? So how the fuck didn't she know? Like, every time he was doing this, she just so happened to be never home. Or he was doing this while she was sleeping. Keep in mind now, they probably sleep in the same exact bed. So she don't never notice this nigga getting up late at night, not in the bed, late at night. Because he definitely was doing some of this shit late at night. Most of this shit probably was late at night.
She had never gone into the basement, and that the basement was for Maury only. Maury was questioned for 4 hours on his sofa before being taken in for interrogation. Initially, he was arrested on kidnapping charges linked to 2 victims, Betty James and Alyssa Greenwade. Investigators then matched tire tracks on Betty's leg. They were linked to Maury's car. It was now a priority for the police to identify and locate the other victims who were in these tapes, and whose DNA covered the basement in the form of bloodstains. But Maury, he wasn't cooperating. There was no emotion, no guilt, no remorse. He was described by the police officers as nothing but a monster. He sat there unfazed, asking the police officers how they had found him.
Y'all probably wonder why that's funny to me. Cause just like, nigga, I know. Every motherfucker that's ever did shit is bad as this nigga has. Maury. They have no remorse. They have no sense of empathy. They have no sense of sympathy. Because if they did, they wouldn't be doing this. You know what I'm saying? They wouldn't be doing this. They sick in the head. They throw it off. All of them. Like, imagine kidnapping somebody, torturing them for days on end, planning to extend your house and put prison cages in there so you can lock them up. You killing them, and on top of all of that, you're recording it. You're recording it, and you're keeping stuff from them. Like, you keeping wigs, bracelets. He probably kept a couple fingernails and teeth. You know what I'm saying? He recording himself torturing and e-porn people. He's kidnapping, torturing. He's kidnapping, videotaping him torturing and e-porning them and killing them.
Throw it off. Was unsettling. He even remarked that the interviewer was boring and that he wanted to have someone more challenging. Maury seemed unable to believe that he had finally been caught, but then the police revealed that it was the letter to Bill Smith that led to him being apprehended, and with this, his demeanor shifted.
Hey, you finna get mad or something?
He drummed his fingers on the table restlessly. His body shifted in the chair, sliding back and forth, and he further refused to cooperate. Maury was then placed in a super maximum jail cell and was placed on round-the-clock observations. This is a common practice for criminals who may face the death penalty.
Yes, sir.
Were scheduled for every 15 minutes. But on the 10th of June 2002, guards at the St. Louis County Jail found Maury dead in his cell. He had been able to create a makeshift noose, and 2 consecutive checks had been missed.
Nigga, you don't even deserve that. I promise you, he don't deserve being able to kill himself. He don't deserve that, bro. He don't deserve the easy way out, bro.
In those 45 minutes,
we should have gave this nigga the chair.
A strip from his bedsheet, thread it through an air vent above the toilet, and end it all. He even managed to restrain his own hands behind his back, preventing himself from instinctively fighting for survival. Inside his cell, they found a note addressed to his mother. It read, "Dear Mum, I'm sorry for the pain I have caused you and the family. My death seems to be the only way out, and a fast end to all of this publicity. You were the best mother a man could have, but I've been sick in the head for a long time. You ain't the best son a mother could have, though. Since I was around 14. I don't know why. I was just sick. I have never felt normal or happy at any time in my life. This seems to be the best solution for all involved, especially me, because I don't want to spend the rest of my life locked up. Or worse, let them kill me with a needle. Tell Grandma, Marina, and everybody that I love them."
The needle not good enough. Firing squad not good enough. We gotta get this nigga the electric chair, because I think he'll survive the longest being an electric chair. I ain't gonna lie, it's making me sound like him. I gotta stop saying this.
Forever your
It's making me sound like him.
Travis. The investigators who analysed the note saw no admission of guilt for the murders. They also believed that a significant event pushed him towards becoming a cold-blooded killer around the age of 14. But when detectives interviewed those who knew him, they found nothing. No signs of childhood trauma, or any trauma for that matter. No clear trigger that could explain his descent into murder. Unfortunately,
some people just born like that, bruh. That's the truth.
Maury never faced trial. He never stood before the families of the woman he manipulated.
Yeah, don't say he took the easy way out.
By the time of his death, the police had linked him to 12 victims, but in his own words, there were at least 17. Detectives in the surrounding counties have suspected that he might be the murderer in several other cases, increasing the potential murder count to over 20. The strongest theory suggests that he had a deep hatred for women who sold their bodies, but no one can say for sure. The case...
That nigga lame as a motherfucker, I tell you, boy. But yeah, like, some people just... sick in the head like that, gang. Like, some people just born that way. Just straight up, as simple as that. Just born evil, if you will. Some people just born with the urge to kill. Some people just born with hatred in their heart. And ain't much you can do about it to get rid of it. Cause just like you was born with your desires and your needs, they was born with theirs. And then you can do to control it. You can suppress the urge, but eventually it's gonna come out. Hey, I appreciate y'all for tuning in, and I'm gonna get at y'all in the next one.